Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of UGA Sports Live. My name is Radi Nabulsi. I will be your host. I'm joined by Dayne Young, our executive producer, and of course, Jim Donnan, the former Georgia Bulldogs head coach, the Hall of Famer himself, and the reason why everybody is tuned in on a Tuesday at noon. Coach, we're going to jump right into it. We got a lot of questions to get to today, but the number one question I'm getting is about you. And not to say you ducked it last week, but you didn't give us an answer last week. And I'm getting a lot of people saying, what's coach's prediction for the Super Bowl? In other words, I think there's a lot of money riding on what you say. So I know you had a fantastic weekend. Happy 80th birthday to you. Had the family come in. You've been a busy man for 80, going to basketball games all over the place. But have you had a chance yet to see who's going to win the Super Bowl? Because I think a lot of people got their BetMGM apps open, their DraftKings and everything ready to go based on what you say. So make the folks some money, Coach.
All right, write this down. I'm going to get the over-under on Taylor Swift on how many times 6.5 is the bet. Over-under. I'm over 6.5 on views of Taylor Swift.
Believe it.
Seriously, I will say this. My man, Chris Felica's got an unbelievable parlay going that, based on futures bets, kind of like what Dayne does when he goes to Vegas. What was it you put out that somebody would win the championship? What was it?
Yeah, if Notre Dame would have won the national championship, I had and that was a bet that I made back in February last year.
That was good. But so basically, he had that Xander Schauffele would win a major, the New York Liberty would win the WNBA, that Aaron Judge would win the MVP of the American League, that Ohio State would win the national championship, and he's got one where if the Eagles win the Super Bowl or if the Kansas City Chiefs win the Super Bowl, so he's going to win either way, but the odds are better with the Eagles because way out the Eagles weren't that great. So I'm proud of my man Bear on that. That's a pretty dang good parlay. I think $45 to win. If the Eagles win, he wins 160, I think, or something like that, thousand. If the Chiefs win, it's like 60. But anyhow, my gut tells me the Eagles, because the way they can run the ball and the fact they keep the ball away from Kansas City. But I just believe Kansas City's a team of destiny. I just think it's one of those years where no matter what happens, they just find a way to win. So I wouldn't bet on either one of them. No, I think you bet some of these prop bets. I mean, that Taylor Swift bet to me is a really good one.
Yeah, there you go. That's how you make your money, folks. Go ahead and get that in with your right off the bat. The other question we get,
she had on the Grammys, man, it's stronger than Ajax. Did you see that?
I did not. What I miss on the Grammys?
It was red for Georgia. I mean, it was good looking.
Had a little piece of jewelry too on her leg that had the letter T on it.
She didn't even win anything either. I mean, it's fixed.
Yeah, well, so is the Super Bowl, so it works great. I did see somebody say, "Hey, I got my Chiefs jersey in," and he put on a ref shirt, and I about died. I'm like, that's brutal. The other question I get, people ask all the time, Coach, will there be who's going to get drafted? Will there be coaching changes, stuff like that? Where's Georgia right now? I mean, I know that we talked about practice starting here at the end of March. It's starting in March. What's Georgia doing right now? Can't give folks an update. I mean, we saw they had a huge junior day. Almost 200 players came in, big names. We've had a lot of updates.
200
doing right now. What's
we had 200? I thought we had 27.
Well, I'm just thinking they all had people with them.
Oh, okay. If we had 200, I mean, but I'm fact checking.
There's moms and dads and brothers and sisters.
There was a lot of them when you had all that. But the one thing that you've got to be really aware of is your own player development, and our players are doing the so-called off-season program, which involves a lot of weight training, conditioning, specific skill position-wise training. And as we said a couple of years ago, that new rule where you can meet and work with them 8 hours a week is really helpful going into spring practice to get kids ready where they're ready to rock. So I think, from all I've heard, kids are working hard. And one of the things Kirby always does, which I think is really smart, but I don't know how many other schools do it, but he gets people like Brock Bowers and Lad McConkey and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, do a little video where he tells them where the player, like Lad, will say, "Look, I came in here a lot like a lot of you, and was not a highly recruited guy, and I did what they told me, and I tried to connect with the coaches, and I did everything possible as far as so. Listen, basically, it's a tutorial on what to do and how to act and learn what your other players are. It's genuine too. It's no script. I mean, obviously Bauer's probably not as long. He probably didn't talk too long, but I saw the one with McConkey, and just unbelievable tribute to where he is today and how he got there. And it's a good way to get your players motivated. And we talk about, you say, what are they doing? They do have these smaller groups, these connect groups, where they'll get 6 or 7 or 8 players that are in different positions, and they'll get in, meet for an hour, and they'll just talk about their background, what they did growing up, where other players can get to meet them, and also a position coach who really doesn't have any players in that room is there too, to get to meet and know a little bit more about the other players too, where you're just not confined to your own guys all the time. And it started during COVID because, you couldn't have any team meetings, and they were doing it on Zoom. So, really good way to what they call connect with your team. And that's one other thing they do between now and spring, and continue it into the summer. The big thing is for me is the younger guys, which is a lot different when I was coaching. You might have 1 or 2 guys come in early, they graduate, but the majority of our team's already here, and they're having to learn the system is the number one thing, because it's a lot different for any player, regardless of where you go. So the mental part is good, and then the physical is just understanding that most of these guys are 2 or 3 years ahead of you, and don't get too down because you're not doing what they're doing. You know what I mean? You have to just accept that. But at the same time, certain guys just jump out pretty quick and they're ready to go, and they're not confined to being a younger player. So it's really good situation way we train our players.
There's a lot of, I say a lot. Historically, this is a down year for coaching changes. I think back this time last year, you had 4 new coaches who were trying to go through these sessions with the players. Georgia hasn't had any real coaching turnover, but some of the other schools have. But across the board, it's not been a whole lot. It is. I mean,
No, I mean, one thing that Kirby did say during the season last year, which Kirby's not real big on giving a lot of. He's good on slapping you on the back and all that, but he said it was the best staff he's ever had. So hopefully that's going to continue. So he wouldn't say that if he didn't feel like it. So that's pretty impressive.
I mean, even when you look at the conference as a whole, there was not a head coaching change in the SEC this
Right.
season.
that's right.
And the average is 2 or 3, maybe even up to 4 in an offseason. So maybe you say enough changed the previous cycle with Saban and Jimbo Fisher and everything that you just had to have a year like this. But this definitely is an anomaly for an offseason in the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, there's some guys that had their backs to the wall, like Pittman came through with got to go to a bowl game, and hired Petrino, and I thought that was a good year for him to kind of steady the waters. And then we had a new coach, Mike Elko, did a good job early in the season, but kind of faded at A&M, and
Napier saved his job.
Yeah, and give me a chance. I'm gonna get to. I always hate to say much about Gators, but I did say several times on this show that I felt like Napier, and I've always felt like he's a good coach that just had a weaker staff, and he brought in some guys to help him. But everybody's ready to jump on them early because of their early season play, and they played some good teams, but they played really poorly. But really came on strong down the stretch, and with Lagway and some of these transfers they got, I mean, they're going to be a force. Maybe not top echelon, but they can knock some teams off. I think probably South Carolina and Florida probably surprised teams that probably did better than you ever thought they would. And South Carolina with that quarterback now, they can get a running game to go with him. I think they're going to be a real force too.
I thought we had a fantastic post on the board at UGASports.com. One of our posters went through, and I apologize for not remember who it was. He mentioned that the team that won the national title in college football for the last, basically since 2014, they have lost their offensive coordinator either the following year or 2 years later. And even in a couple of times where you had co-offensive coordinators, both of them left twice. I saw that at Clemson, saw that other places. So it's almost as if it's definitely worth winning a national title to lose your coordinator. I mean, hey, he took you to a title. He deserves to move on to bigger, better things. But that happened again. And Dayne, there's not been a whole lot of rigmarole in the SEC in the coaching carousel, but that's not true nationwide.
Yeah, Coach, I want to run through some of these contenders and some of the coordinator changes, starting with Ohio State. Chip Kelly, you told me and Roddy before I saw it in other places. I think it was broken right around the same time, so it was being chatted about in the coaching circles. Chip Kelly goes to the NFL with the Raiders. Jim Knowles leaves Ohio State for Penn State.
Yeah, I think Ohio State certainly got to be reeling a little bit right now. Not only lost those two, but offensive line coach went to the Texans, I think. So in the case of Knowles, he's got some background in Pennsylvania, grew up in the Philly area. And, he's going to a team that is kind of like Ohio State. Several of those kids, including the quarterback, 2 running backs, and some defensive players that probably would get drafted or coming back to try to win it. I think Penn State's got to be a national contender for next year, and he'll help their defense. This Allen guy went to Clemson, who I think is a good man and a really good person, but I don't know that he's ever been that much of a defensive stalwart. I mean, I'm sure he's got some good plans and everything like that, but paying that guy $2 million or $3 million, what are they paying him at Clemson? But
I'll look it up and confirm that while you're
got a heck of a deal there, but and he should have a good team. I mean, their offense really going to be tough with Klubnik back, and their schedule's always very favorable. But then, but Chip Kelly raised the bar. I mean, one of the happiest guys probably with that $6 million that he got for the Raiders was Todd Monken, because his contract's up where he's renegotiating, and I'm saying if that guy's worth $6 million, you got to think Coach Monken's going to be jumping up there a little bit more too. So
$2 million a year for Tom Allen.
$2 million. Mm-hmm. That's amazing. This is the United States of America, man. Anything can happen. So I don't know.
Coach in the wrong time, buddy.
I don't know Tom Allen. I'm certainly know that he's a good man and all, but never been that impressed with the defense they play.
2 more I wanted to mention and get your take on, Coach. So Al Golden goes to the NFL from Notre Dame. Chris Ash, the new defensive coordinator for the Irish.
Yeah, I mean, let me just tell you this. Al Golden is an excellent coach. Came into Miami when they were on probation, and really wasn't fair what happened to him down there. But then he's worked his way back up through the ranks, working in some pro ball, and then took over Notre Dame and did a great job. He's got some existing relationships with the Bengals. I think he was a linebacker coach a couple years ago before he went to to the Fighting Irish. And I talked to Zach Taylor's mom this weekend by text. She lived on the same street with me and Norman, and both their sons. Mike Press was the Jacksonville Jaguars coordinator. Now he's going to Chicago Bears and a passing game coordinator job, and then of course Zach, head coach of Cincinnati. But my daughter used to babysit them both, so we've got some real ties there. My daughter has a hard time when the Bengals plays the Chiefs, though. She's such a loves the Chiefs because of Swift. So I don't know what happens there, but I'm not trying to get off on anything here. But I do feel like that these coordinator jobs in the pros are really unreal. And then Ash has got a good background. He's been around a long time, and we'll see how it works. Another guy's going back to the Rutgers for the third time. He's going to be the defensive coordinator. So a lot of changes around the country in those big jobs.
And then finally, Ryan Grubb. Initially, when Kalen DeBoer got the job at Alabama, Grubb was going to come to Alabama with him last year. Then he gets the offensive coordinator job with the Seahawks. Well, now he comes to Alabama full time, rejoining with DeBoer. They were paired up at Washington when Michael Penix was there.
Yeah, that's a long time relationship. They've coached in a lot of different schools and with tremendous success. I feel like that's probably the biggest hire in the SEC right now for this year. I just feel like this guy, they had the guy they had last year was good. He knew the system, but he hadn't had any really coordinator calling the game experience. Their defense let them down some more than their offense last year. But they had the bad game against Oklahoma. But I just feel like I don't know if Ty Simpson's going to be the quarterback or that kid from Texas coming in there. But we didn't need for him to get hired. I know that he's going to help them.
Yeah. Well, sometimes hiring a guy really well works for you. Sometimes it doesn't. It's just circumstances will be completely different. But I think Grubb with him, DeBoer back together, I think that's I'm not excited about those guys coming to Athens. I don't care who the quarterback is. I'm not excited about it. But I'm always tense about that game anyway.
Right.
One thing you don't have to be tense about is our friends over at Athens Ford. And they put out a thing recently talking about their Ford mobile service. And you really need to check it out because their technicians can come to you. It is complimentary. They don't charge you extra for it. But I was thinking, well, if I'm trying to explain this to people, what do they do when they come out? Well, of course, they can do it right there in your driveway, or they can pick up the vehicle and take it back to their dealership and fix it and bring it to you. So that's a pretty neat thing. But I was looking on their FAQs, what services are available. Well, they'll do brake services, batteries, tire rotations, bulbs, diagnostic scanning. When you get that engine light on, you need to find out what it is. They can do that. Of course, oil and filter changes, powertrain system analysis, accessory installation, recalls, all sorts of stuff like that from our friends at Athens Ford offers it. But of course, Ford in general has it with their Ford mobile service. So check them out when you get a chance. Also want to mention our friends at myperfectfranchise.net. We have the new contest on the board at UGASports.com each month. They put up a description of one of their franchises. Again, there's over 3,000 of them. Say, hey, here's who it's suited for. Here's who you are servicing. Here's the type of monthly returns. And if you guess right, you get a free year of membership at UGASports.com for yourself, or one you can give away. It's fun to watch people guess, and it kind of shows you how many different ones are out there. So if I say they were doing one for like a massage envy or something like that, there's 47 different answers that are close until somebody hits it just right. So check out our friends at myperfectfranchise.net if you're trying to supplement your income, change careers, or basically just get out of the rat race.
Coach, what's the value of continuity with offensive coordinator, center, and quarterback? So just in terms of running an offense, that's where it all starts. But I'm thinking Mike Bobo has known Gunnar Stockton for a long time, and the family's even worked with him as a quarterback coach. And then Drew Bobo, if he's the center for the upcoming year, obviously Mike's son, just that whole connection and cohesion there. What's the value of that?
Well, it definitely can't hurt, but I mean, there's plenty of that around the country when you look at working with the kids once they get there. Maybe not prior, like Mike knew the family, and I think his father worked with Gunnar when he was growing up a lot more than Mike did, because Mike was all around the country coaching. But one of the things that's really important in any offense is communication between the quarterback and prior to the game, during the game, and then quarterback center, because center has to make a lot of calls at the line, identifying the defensive front, and Drew's very good at that. I mean, he's been around football his whole life, and he's always been a student of the game. So, but he doesn't get enough credit for his quickness and ability. I mean, he really played well when he had his shot last year, and we got a lot of things we can worry about, but I'm not worried about center with Drew in there.
Well, getting a lot of questions. I'm going to dive right into those, Coach. Actually, we'll take the first one right here from Facebook. Coach, what is your take on why Jaden Rashada decided to go in the portal? I live out here in California, about a couple of exits off of Highway 4 from Antioch, California, where he's from. So Rico Atkins knows him, or at least watched him. He wants to know why Jaden Rashada went into the portal.
I just think it was inevitable, because if you looked at at our roster, looked at his role as far as what he's able to do and what he was not able to do, and he sees these two guys ahead of him. And one thing that both Kirby and Mike tell him is all the players how you stand and what your shots are. And I know Mike told Rashada over the between the championship game and the playoff game that, hey, we're going to really give you a good look here in the next couple of weeks, see how it looks for you, and then make a decision. And obviously, he felt like he had a better chance going somewhere else. But at this point, he is yet to declare. I guess he's going to wait for the spring portal to see what's open as far as opportunities. And look, this is his second time, so really third. But I mean, as far as being at a school, the second he was, committed to Florida, but then went to Arizona State. So I think he just didn't fit into what we do that much.
Speaking of quarterbacks, this one's from a name that I hate because it's a pun. We've got questions. We've got it from before. Tom to shine, like time to shine. Tom, I'm going to fire you. Well, so Coach, do we stand a realistic chance of landing Jared Curtis? I've seen a lot of offers go out to other 2026 quarterbacks.
Well, you got to cover your butt. I mean, you can't put all your eggs in one basket. So, it's like that song that everybody said, that joke about, hey, the little girl said the fable was every day her grandmother put the eggs in different places around the kitchen because you didn't want to put all your eggs in one basket. And the little boy said his granddad got the dogs to lay in different places around the porch so they wouldn't want the dogs to hurt each other, so let sleeping dogs lie. And then this one kid talked about Uncle Johnny was flying a mission over Vietnam in a helicopter, and they got shot down, and he picked up a machine, took a swig of whiskey, and took a machine gun out and started taking out a whole regiment. And so the teacher said, "What's the fable that?" He said, "Don't screw with Uncle Johnny when he's drinking liquor." So that's how those fables get going. But I don't even know. I really sound.
I didn't know the question anymore.
I'm disoriented, man. I'm disoriented. That's so. What was the question?
No, that was good. Yeah. So the fable is, that's why you offer multiple 2026 quarterbacks.
Oh, yeah, but
Jared Curtis.
As far as Jared Curtis, I mean, we're in as good a shape as we can be, because ultimately it's going to come down to, certainly financial deal, but also where he feels the most comfortable. He made that initial commitment to us, and nothing's changed as far as the way he feels about us from what I could gather. And I know Kirby and Bobo both thought good about their in-home visit up there, and his mother likes us and dad likes us. I'd be shocked if we don't get him, but stranger things have happened. But I tell you what, if we do get him, you can play the school song. That's for sure.
Absolutely. That does bring up a similar question from Dog Stomp. He says, does recruiting even matter anymore? And this is a question we've gotten a lot on.
That's definitely something you worry about now. Relationships are one thing, but the dollar is really rolling in there for a lot of these kids. So, but you got to just figure that most parents are going to want that relationship and the academics and all that, because for most of these kids, they're not going to get to the pros. Maybe they will, but this is a chance to set themselves up. So, you find the really good players sometimes don't take quite as much money and go to the place where they're going to get developed and win. So you've got to build that relationship from that standpoint. But certainly he makes a point. It's not as important as it used to be when you get a head start on it. But I know the schedule Kirby was on the last 2.5 weeks would make a bulldog break his chain, man. I'm just telling you, he was a lot of different places. And the one thing that impressed me over all the visits he made was the fact he went down to the Senior Bowl and supported those kids and, let them know that he was still behind them. And I thought that was good to see that pick with them and all those players.
I summed it up this way because some people on our the vault at UGASports.com said, well, why does recruiting even matter? It's just going to come down to who spends the most money. I'm like, you do realize a lot of times it's Georgia spending the most money. Georgia ain't poor. They just have the number 2 class in the nation. That didn't come for free.
Good point, because, it's a misnomer about – we've had some guys certainly we've lost because of money, but not many that was a difference. We were close on a lot of guys that we didn't get, but we got a good stream of financial support, and we're getting ready to be even better with this money coming in June when they have all that TV money. So, and anybody, you're just wasting your breath now.
I know, but just saying, if both teams are offering $500,000, he's going to go to the place where he's most comfortable.
I'm not talking about you. I want to make sure they're wasting their breath to say, well, I'm fed up with this NIL. And, hey, listen, if you are, your team, you can't worry about football. You need to go follow gymnastics or some other sport, because that's the way it is with football now. It's just the way. You're not going to change it. There's no way Congress will let you get away and take this NIL away from these kids. It's just American system.
There's also just the element of everyone's going to parent and advise their kids differently. And I don't know, I've turned down jobs that would have paid me more money because either it didn't seem like a right fit or whatever it may be. There are going to be families out there that their son could make more money playing football somewhere else, but the fit or the opportunity or whatever it may be works out. Is there the top of the top end that go for the dollar completely? Sure. But I think there's some mentorship involved here about, like, do what's best for you, because you're going to make money wherever you go if you're a good enough player.
Yeah, it's like a corporate executive's got a chance to work for Amazon or Walmart or these big ticket companies, AT&T. That's what you're looking at. Some of these players looking at Georgia and Ohio State and Alabama, the blue blood programs, and who's your boss? Who do you want to play for? Who do you want to work for? So
yeah, and that's what was my point, Coach. Is Georgia is one of those people keep thinking that they're
I appreciate you standing up for that, but I know you got a lot of members on the site and need to get more, really, but it's a misnomer. We're very competitive, and a lot of people around the country trying to figure out our system, and of course we're not telling them, but there's plenty of firepower behind our recruiting. And look, the last 3 years, all you got to do is look at the results. Those kids didn't come here because they like to work out in the weight room over them. They got weight rooms everywhere. Back in the old days, when you guys would do those reports on signing day, what'd you like about what was the difference for Georgia? Well, I really like the training table, or I really like this. Right now, it's like I like the bank.
Exactly. I like
But
the
if you look at the last two national champions, yeah, there's like top end. They used money and capital to bring in certain players, but so much of it is retaining players that would have had options to go to the
Right.
NFL in the middle rounds.
Michigan poster child for that, and Ohio State did the same, paying a lot of money to keep some of those players. And now we're seeing Penn State do that next year. They're going to be it, and Texas is trying to do it too. Texas trying to keep some of those mid-round guys because they lose some prominent players on top of. Plus, Texas got that easy schedule again. It's just really unbelievable that they got 2 years in the SEC like they did.
I can't wait
Just
till
gotta
they get
come
a
to
real
Athens.
schedule. We'll have a commercial after this one. We've got a lot more questions to get through, especially some from UGASports.com readers. But this is from Carrollton Realtor. So apparently they sell houses in Carrollton. Who is going to help us in the return game? And when was the last time George returned a kick for a touchdown?
I think the last time was that kid that transferred to Houston, took one back all the way early in the year. That Mackay Muse. To me, that was the last time that we returned a kick all the way. I think Zachariah Branch transferred from USC. He's going to be the guy we're counting on, and then we've got some other guys that could step in there and do it too. But he's going to be the main return guy.
So was it Muse? Because asked somebody to look it up, and I think, Coach, I think you may have just outsmarted the entire staff. Because the last one I could remember was like Isaiah McKenzie.
McKenzie did, but Muse took one all the way, and everybody got jacked up about our kick return. Maybe he took it all the way, and there's a penalty. But
Against the top teams, it seems like there's fewer opportunities because so many of the kickoff guys can kick it through the end zone at this point.
Yeah, he did this on a punt, I think.
Yeah. So the last one was Terry Godwin in 2016, but that was only a 43-yarder because they tried to kick it short and he just ran it back. Yeah.
Was it punt return?
No, this is kickoff return.
Oh, okay.
So they did South Carolina tried to onside one and he just grabbed it and took it to the house.
Yeah, made Kirby mad too because he just wanted to fall on the ball. But
exactly. And then 2014, Isaiah McKenzie against Kentucky. So,
but
a full-length field one like Notre Dame did to us last time was 2014. So I'm with you, Zachariah Branch. I think he had 700 yards return yards. I mean, let's go, buddy.
Yeah, he can go, and we got some other guys that are going to be, I like I like Cash Jones back there. I like 86 is good at returning kicks too.
Dylan Bell, yes, sir. All right, speaking of if you want to return and kick your feet up, we got a great place called Academia Brewing Company. So if you're looking at Academia on the screen there, I'm showing you one of their lounges with the nice chairs and, of course, the coolers of beer and all the different accoutrements, if you will, in the background, all their gear and all the beer and all the fun stuff. Great place if you were looking just to go hang out, have a few beers. Also, we've got this nice fall spring and the weather's beautiful. Like it's in the 70s. You can actually go outside. You see they've got the palm trees and the tall chairs and tables outside. A great place to go and have some fantastic food, some fantastic beer, hanging out with your friends. You won't find a better place to hang out in Athens than Academia Brewing Company. Check them out when you get the chance. Also, I want to mention our friends at Your Pie because today is Tuesday. If you go ahead and order a Your Pie pizza, salad, sandwich, pasta, pizza, of course, wings, you get double points through the app. Those points add up super fast, and you get free pizzas, free drinks, free brownies. They give you free food on your birthday, give you free food on your half birthday. So, Coach, we should have put in our order when you hit 80 the other day. We could have got you some free pizzas and stuff.
Yeah, it's been nice of you. I would like that.
But you had enough food.
Yeah, I mean, this is a Russian army.
So, anyways, shout out to our friends at Your Pie. Tons of locations all over the place. Check them out when you get a chance. And again, use the app. Although I tell people not to use the Rivals app because I don't like it, but I love the YourPie app. It works fantastic. So check them out when you get a chance.
So there's some questions from UGAsports.com. Louisiana Dog 31-8. Who is going to be the next wrecking ball on Georgia's defensive line? I know that Trayvon Walker's and Jalen Carter's are once in a decade, but who's the next closest thing?
Wrecking ball?
Yeah.
I don't know that we got anybody that's that kid from Savannah. I think is going to be good down the road, but I don't know if he's ready to be a wrecking ball. But
Elijah Griffin.
Yeah, I think we're going to be really good at defensive front, and I like Kristen Miller coming back, and I just think our linebacker core is going to be as good as it's been 1 through 4 or 5, and then. But D-line, I don't see anybody that's going to throw people around at this point.
That seems like it may be the hardest position to recruit, to find a true difference maker. There just aren't many. Like a Jalen Carter really is a once-in-a-decade type talent, right?
Yeah, I mean, a long time ago, some coach told me this, and I've always believed this, that D linemen that are true difference makers are just like dinosaurs. I mean, hard to find them.
I mean, I like what we saw out of Christian Miller. Like you said, Xavier McLeod had his moments, but I think the jury's still out on Jordan Hall. That was the guy who was projected to be that record.
Come off injury and play.
Exactly. He's been hurt so long.
He's a player. He's a player. And that kid from Texas is going to be good. I can't pronounce his name, but
Joseph Ajonye?
Yeah, that's it.
JJA.
More questions about offensive line performance. I think we've hit that in previous weeks of what's happening with Georgia's offensive line. I will just the coach right now. Players like I know recovery's happening for some that had like injuries and even minor operations. When does it really flip into conditioning for spring football?
As far as when are they going to actually start working on plays and stuff?
Well, I'm saying like are younger players like working out right now to be ready for the conditioning that a spring camp requires?
They better be. I'm just telling you that. They're on a rigorous routine. The day they came back from, to start classes, they got none of the coaches are here because they're out recruiting, but some of the analysts work with them. But each guy has specific things that they needed to work on, whether it might be strength gains, lower or upper body, quickness, whatever it might be. And they look at their prior results, and all of their lifts are on a computer, and they go instantaneously into a system, and the coaches on the road can look at the workout that day and see what they did and compares them to what they did in the past. And if you're not making gains, then there's going to be some talk about what you need to do. So they're hard at work on individuals right now. And then now that the coaches are back, I think everybody will be off like after the signing day tomorrow for the weekend, and then they'll get back and the coaches will be out there and what they call, the off-season per se program, and they work about 40 or 50 minutes team-wise conditioning and agilities and things like that, and then they go to drill specific with their groups. So they'll spend 30, 40 minutes a day on that.
One thing calendar-wise, just being on campus at UGA that snuck up on me, we're a month away from spring break for students.
Right.
It is a super early spring break for UGA.
Was it like end of February?
It's the first week of March.
Yeah, things are rolling. Won't be long. I know Radi, as usual, came out with when spring practice. I always look forward to hearing what he says because once in a while he's right. But we've got spring practice starting, and but really, like I told the fans, they're practicing right now. They spend 30, 40 minutes every day on some phase of offense, defense, or kicking game with all the kids. So, and what they call the install. And if somebody would have missed it, which they could have, the younger players, they start sending them videos and Zoom with them and all that. before they get here, teaching them some plays so they're ready to roll.
I mean, it's not there's barely an off season for these coaches.
Oh, I mean,
Coaches, they don't get one. Screw that.
yeah, coaches, although they got a, they've had some weekends here where we didn't have recruits in that they were able to hang a little bit, and then they'll have a spring break, which most of them go somewhere, and then they take a little time after the spring practice, and then May they're on the road the whole time.
I did have a visual that I want to pop up here, Roddy. How about Coach Donnan for the 80th birthday here?
I love
Yeah,
it.
that's pretty sweet. You don't leave it up there long because I don't want people to know how old I am. But really surprised my kids got somebody to put that up at night the day they got here, and then the next morning when I went out to get the paper, I saw it. It was a shock. But
For our audio listeners, it's a photo of Coach, and in his front yard has really big. I mean, it takes up your whole yard. It says "Happy Birthday, Big D," and then has a lot of football and
yeah,
just a nice sign out there.
yeah, and I think my neighbors probably liked it better than I did. I'm just going to say one selfish thing. Behind the brick on my front porch there, before they bricked it in, the week we beat Florida, my neighbors came up and put the score on my house there, and then a couple of weeks later they bricked over it. But it'll always be indelibly, or whatever the word is, in my house, that Florida win.
That Florida is foundational to your house. That's right. It's in the core.
Yeah.
Coach, I'm going to combine two questions here. One is from a dog fan on the board. You want to know your thoughts on the offensive line performance this past year. And this one from Big Marker says, with all the new faces on the offensive line, what can we do to help them in games? So basically, if you would kind of combine the two questions.
Yeah, I mean,
what to do, and how do you help them when you got four new starters?
Yeah, we can harp on that. I mean, it wasn't a good year, regardless how you look at it. Injuries, underperforming, not making enough first downs, dropping passes, which keeps the line from having a chance to be successful because you're probably punting. I don't know how many actual plays we ran last year. Dane might look it up compared, but I felt like we didn't have as many snaps for sure. But the bottom line was underperformed for sure. As far as the future, just got to everybody analyze what we could have done, what the job requirements are for each position, and try to fit the right player and body type into that position and have good competition. And I feel like we will. And I think the other players help the line by being able to execute their assignments too.
Is there anything with having Gunnar Stockton versus Ryan Puglisi in the game? Does one help your, I don't want to call it a new O-line, but I mean, there's a good likelihood you have three kind of new, especially on the interior. I mean, say you got Ernest Green and Dylan and
so you have Ernest Green and Freeling and Bobo, who played a lot, and Micah Morse, who stays healthy. That'll be four, but Calhoun might be the other guard. But I think Puglisi is at the point right now where you can't consider him anything but being ready after being here for a whole year and being around everything. So if he's going to win the job, it's not going to be because he doesn't know the system now. It's just going to be because so. But Gunnar has a little bit more, for sure, practice time and understanding of checks and things. But you really put on the quarterback's plate what he can handle. I mean, some guys you give them more, some less. So I think that's going to be a very rigorous competition between those two.
I think one thing that could be helpful, just Georgia needs some injury luck with the Robinsons, because I still think Branson and Roderick are both really good players, and the fact that they missed what they did last year, I think made it tough for Georgia's running game early.
But that plus Etienne with the first game suspension, and then every time it looked like he was getting ready, he he hurt his leg and missed a couple of games, and you can't get that rhythm going. You can't just expect to come in there and play and be the same as a back. It's all a field type deal. So, but we're going to have some good competition there in the spring, and I think maybe Branson might be ready. I don't know if Rod will.
And that was all with a new running backs coach too. So if we're looking at cohesion, Crawford going into a second year, one thing we have to remember, Del McGee had been with Kirby Smart at Georgia since the very beginning, and this was the worst rushing year at Georgia that we can remember. So how does Georgia rebound after that? Because Del McGee's departure was a large one.
I would say ball possession, catching the ball, making first downs, making some long runs too help your own line. You just can't line up and Burma road the ball all the way down the field consistently against these good defense. You're going to have some more explosive plays.
I think that answers Claremont's question, because he was wanting to know how you could get the coordinator and the O-line on the same page. And I think you're right. If you get don't turn the ball over, catch some of those. And so, but did we just have a question about long runs pop up somewhere?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you this: Mike Bobo and the O-line are on the same page. It's just the fact that they got to execute. I mean, I don't care. I mean, you watch that on Super Bowl. If all of a sudden that pass rush for the Eagles overwhelms the Chiefs, what are you going to say about Andy Reid? I mean, he's going to have a plan for it. I mean, they're going to run a lot of RPOs. I think just get rid of it quick.
Here's a question that I was looking for. Is from Mark King. He says, "Why are we not seeing more breakaway runs from our running backs? Not since Swift have we had a legitimate long run. I understand the defenses are better, but have we changed our strategy?"
He's exactly right. I mean, you got to have some of those. You can't knock everybody down. And I thought ETN was going to bring that to us. I know Frazier can do it. We got to get better at that. That's for sure.
Good question from Christopher Metcalf. This is right up your alley, Coach. Says, who are your mouth-watering players for this year? We lost so much, and it's time for some guys to step up. I mean, I go back to you. You mentioned Jalen Carter a lot back in the day. James Cook was one of mine each week. You mentioned, hell, before the Clemson game, you told me, keep an eye on Brock Bowers. I'm like, who, the freshman? Who the hell is that? So,
yeah, I mean, I would like to defer on that till after the first couple of weeks of spring practice, and let me see how some of these guys develop. I don't want to put the whammy on them till I see how much they've improved.
Okay.
We definitely have some guys that are capable of being in that mouth-watering area code.
I did, Coach, want to get some quick hitting takes from you on just some transactions in sports. So in the NFL, Myles Garrett asked for a trade from the Browns, so it looks like he'll be on the move.
Yeah, I mean, you going to ask me about Luka Doncic?
I will.
No.
You talk about shock. That was kind of the most shocking trade I've seen in a long time. I mean, either that guy's got some off the court issues, or they weren't ready to pay that $375 million max. I don't know what it was, but man, that's a tough trade there. But getting back to who was it you asked first?
Myles Garrett with the Browns.
You know, he's a generational guy, rushing the passer, and Browns just seem to be 1 year on, 1 year off. I mean, can't get it going. I don't know what it is, but.
And then last night I saw where Cooper Kupp, the Rams are saying he didn't demand a trade. They're saying we're going to trade you.
Yeah, I mean, Cooper Kupp, I mean, he's making so much money and he's been hurt so much that you got to look at the salary cap, and can you justify paying this guy so much money when he's not playing and we need other positions? So that's what's tough about the salary cap. I mean, that's why you see different teams winning at a big level, because it's hard to keep your roster. But they like that Puka, as a wide receiver, and I'm sure they'll come up with some others, but they're not going to pay $20 million to Cooper Kupp. You realize he's making like $8 million more than Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, running back position. I'd say this just because the same problems in the NFL in terms of are we going to pay this guy this for his experience here and can he play here? That's the same thing these college programs are dealing with.
Oh, no question.
But that's why people are pissed off. That was the difference. You liked it when a kid came and played for your school that you went to, and it's in your heart. You know, I don't have anything invested in the Atlanta Falcons. I just grew up a Falcons fan, but I invested time and money in my Georgia degree. And when I see a kid come through and he loves Georgia, I'm like, you know, Chris Conley. You know, you feel like you've shared something with him. And then when you find out that they're doing the same thing, they feel like mercenaries like the NFL. That's what's losing some people's.
Yeah, I mean
It sticks in their craw.
It's a tough deal, and I just got to say this John Wooden thing today. A little philosophy. What happened yesterday, you can't do anything about it. What happens tomorrow, you can't do anything about that. You got no control. Only thing you can control is today. So,
very true.
There's still plenty of players that love playing for their team.
Oh, I know, and a bunch of them come here. I mean, Trevor Etienne came to Georgia, seemed to love it.
Yeah,
and we love. We're like, hey, this kid gets it. So just as much as you hate the ones you lose, there's the ones you get that you like.
It's going to be hard to get any kind of dynasty type thing anymore. Just too many variables.
I like this question from Chadwick Ivory. It says, Coach, who are your defensive edges that are going to get after the QB? Do we need to go to the portal for another guy or two?
Myles Garrett, let's get his ass in there.
That's what made me think of it when you mentioned him. I'm like, hey.
We can pay for Myles, get him. Yeah, I think probably that would be something after spring when you look at some of these young guys like 33 Johnson. I mean, to me, he's got plenty of firepower. How much you going to use guys like Cole and Justin Williams in that situation like they did Walker? But for sure, and then I think Gabe Harris probably going to miss spring with an injury shoulder, but we've got some firepower there. But it's certainly, if you had to look at one position on the team that's as much up in the air to me, and of course the O-line, there's going to be some question marks because it's up in the air about getting better for sure. But I would say DN there is going to be a real big issue. It's a good question.
That we were talking about those long runs, and Blind Squirrel Sports kind of has a good note. It says, in the past, the downfield blocking by the wide receivers has played a vital role in those explosive plays. Does Georgia have, guys in that position who can help the Dogs hit some home runs on the ground?
Yeah, I mean, it all gets magnified when you don't do it. But there were enough times where we were at that point where we didn't get the block, or we got the hold, or we missed the block that, like you said, it didn't happen. So we definitely got some athletes there, but that's the biggest thing that a so-called 5-star receiver has to learn coming from high school to college. Perimeter blocking, stalk blocking, most dangerous man. Like, for instance, if you're the widest guy and you got a guy playing you press coverage, is he playing man or is he going to bail? So if he bails and you come off, then he's not supporting the run. You got to crack the safety and take care of the safety, which is an MDM, most dangerous man. But if he stays with you, you just got to clear him out and then let somebody else take him. But just being able to read that stuff is very important. And then having the physical capabilities of not only getting on a guy, but, staying with him and executing the block.
And I think historically, Georgia, especially under Kirby Smart, has done a really good job of developing that part of player skills. Arian Smith got to be pretty good at that by the end of his time.
He wasn't the first part of practice every day. I can promise you this, and this stems from Kirby being he's the overall coach for sure, but he wants those defensive backs to be able to play the screens and run support. So they spend 5 minutes a day in about 4 groups, throwing the ball, flares to the backs, quick screens, and then the other guys are blocking the perimeter, safeties and corners, and they're defeating those blocks and coming up and wrapping up. they spend 5 minutes a day on that and get 5 or 6 reps each on it. So that's how you develop blocking and also getting off blocks.
You made me think back to Kamari Lassiter getting off 2 blocks in one game and just dropping the guy for a 5-yard loss on those screens. And I'm like, you can't be blocked. It was just fun to watch him. So that's where it comes.
Just take these 5 perimeter guys from our team and look at the success they had. I'll hit it real quick. Bowers playing for the Raiders, McConkey, Kamari Lassiter, a playoff team, starting corner for the Texans, a playoff team, Tyke Smith, starting star for the Tampa Bay Bucks, and then Bullard, another playoff team, starting for the Green Bay Packers. That's 5 perimeter players that you had to replace to be as good as you were the year before. Hard to do.
Yeah, and they didn't. So there's no question. There's a good one from Kevin Tolbert. Coach says, when you watch Mike Bobo call a game, what do you recognize as having been learned as part of his time playing for you? So what did he steal from you, Coach?
I don't know that he stole anything. The system they use now, I mean, it's foreign to me. I don't know any of these plays. They got all these words for it, because of the no huddle. Like a play might be Baltimore on one side and it might be the Ravens on the other. You know what I mean? But it's a city, and the other might be states like Mississippi and Delta. Whatever it might be. There's all kind of connotations for those. But I hope that he learned discipline and belief in the running game and treating the players right. That's some of the things I hope he learned.
He did. He's still running some of your plays. I've seen him,
especially the good ones.
One comment here. Where'd it go? Dang it, I lost it. There's a very kind comment about our. Says from Kerry Smith, it says, I want to thank you and the team at UGA Rivals. I'm a lifelong Georgia fan. My membership to UGA Rivals is worth every penny. You guys are the best, and I'm thankful. Thank you for all you do. Go Dogs. So thank you, nice. Kerry Smith.
That's nice.
That made my whole week. So I appreciate it.
Hey, I always worry. I mean, I don't know what I'll do if you and Dayne get in the transfer portal. I mean, I'll be shucking seals or something. I don't know what I'll be doing.
We got a couple questions. One from Fred E. Farah. You probably know his dad.
Oh, good. Freddie, how's he doing? He's my man down there in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm. He says, is Colby Young going to be back on the team?
Yeah, I would think based on the fact he has another year and the investment he's made with his career, leaving Miami like that he needs to come back and show his wares and set himself up to get drafted. Based on what they're saying now is it's not a felony. So he got that part dropped. I would think he's paid his dues. I mean, he missed almost the whole season, and he'll go through whatever he has to do with the government here, and hopefully he'll be back, and we'll have him and the Thomas kid from A&M out there, which should help us. And well, I tell you that for our family, his father, Freddie Sr. and Freddie Jr. were so good to me and everybody at Georgia. Just a staple down in Jacksonville. Just really, there's plenty of them everywhere, but not many of them did more for me and my program than Freddie Farrar.
I like the idea. You mentioned the Noah Thomas, 6'6", Colby Young, 6'5". Imagine getting Elias Williams out there, 6'7".
Yeah, I mean, this guy, you just got to channel him in. I mean, he's just like a young colt. This got all kind of potential, and certainly defense wants him too. But we got him and Barber there at tight end, and Heinrich coming in here too, along with Riddell.
I wouldn't jump him over those, but I'd love to get down to that red zone, sit about the third goal from the 4-yard line, and you put them in a bunch formation.
Except don't put the ball on the right hash and throw the fade to the left like we did against Alabama. Good Lord.
Yeah, I love it. Hey, Coach.
I think that's the only interception that kid had all year.
Yeah. That's it for the questions I got.
Yeah, I mean that went fast. That went fast, and I think might be one surprise on signing date here tomorrow. We'll see if Georgia picks up a guy or two that help our O line. We'll see.
We'll see, he says.
It does feel weird not to be talking breathlessly about signing day tomorrow, but when you got that many guys already on campus, it's not. There's usually not that many fireworks on signing day, but
Yeah,
kind of wish you'd go back.
I tell you, every year at signing date, it just gives me, how you reflect back on things and situations, funny and things that made you mad and all that about. But the night before signing day, except when my wife was pregnant, having my kids the next day or whatever. I mean, that's a tough night, boy. You think about things running through you, and we didn't even have text messaging back then. I mean, we were calling. I mean, I had like 3 phones here. You got, hey, coach, I got this guy hot. We need to talk to him. And I said, he might be hot, but I'm talking to Marcus Stroud on the other line. He's a lot harder. So, I mean, you know what I'm talking about? It's just that back in the old days, it was, and spending the night out in front of the whole night out in front of McDonald's down in Miami there, waiting for Randy Shannon. And then see him walk in there and sign with Howard Snellenberger. I mean, that was hard.
Did you have a fax machine at home too?
No, I didn't. I didn't have one when I was assistant coach, but when I was a head coach, I had everything here. Fred Hazelwood, my buddy down in the Bahamas, set me up an office here in my downstairs, make a bulldog break his chain. Now, I mean, I had a couple lines that were straight into my office phone and all that here, and I had a fax machine and beautiful furniture. I mean, just because when the parents would come after they ate on Saturday night, they'd come over here and play cards and dominoes and eat cake and all that, and I would go in there and with selective ones and hot box them a little bit, try to set them up for the next day so they could be on my side when we talked to the kid. And this one woman told me one time, said, Coach, I really like all this food. Everything's going good, but my son's going to go to Florida. I said, get your ass back to the hotel.
No. We do have one last question, Coach. This person wants to know, did you hate George Foster in 1998 for having him practice some center snaps while Miles Luckey was injured during Tennessee week? Mind you that George was a true freshman, and George's interior lines were Marlos Leroy, Brandon Miller, both of whom benched 500 pounds, Stroud and Seymour.
What did I hate it?
Did you hate George Foster to make him do that?
Oh, I mean, I love
asking. I'm just
I love George because I knew he could do it. He could help us out, and that was hard playing. You know, we put Jonas in there against. Had to play some center against LSU week before too, but George is one of those guys that you just knew was going to be a player. I mean, he had the length and the quickness, and he was good enough to, as an offensive tackle to even look at center. But who sent that? His mother? Who sent that?
No, George sent that in. He just said we want to know if you hated him for making him do that against
George
Leroy Miller, Stroud, and Seymour. Damn.
We got to see George, you and I, over there at the championship game. It was good to see him. And one of my favorite Georgia players. I'm telling you, we left him some pretty good linemen there. Him and Stinchcomb at tackles and Breedlove. And Herndon was another guy that played for the Broncos that played with George. George and Herndon were with the Broncos. So I'm a big believer in O-line guys and D-line. I'm telling you, they make you a lot better, coach. But I'm sure people don't talk about a Marlis Leroy enough. I mean, that was one of the best junior college picks we ever picked up. I mean, he was from down there in Albany, and man, he was thick. He could knock you back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
people remember Brandon Miller, but Leroy just doesn't get as much attention. You're right.
yeah. Brandon's another one. I think, and then the guy that played defensive end for the Seahawks. People don't talk enough about him. Another big defensive player was really good.
I love it. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for this week's show. We will talk to you next week.